Hey Hogs, I'm going to talk about our first technique, which is our down block. Down block is going to be used for essentially all of our run plays. The main block that we use when there's somebody in our gap. It is used when we have leverage against the defender to where the play is going. It's when we're responsible for our backside gap. So here, as you can say, or see, it says play is going to the left. This can be used on a play like trap or counter, or really any of our run plays, but where the play is going to the left and we are responsible for our backside gap, because that typically means that somebody is pulling. Okay. So typically that means someone's pulling. And so we need to block back to cover the guy that is pulling, to cover his gap that he's vacating. So in this case, the center is blocking back. And let's just pretend that this guard is pulling like he would on a counter play or a trap play. So this center is responsible for his backside gap. Now, the way that we execute a down block, like I said, there's no double team, and the center is just responsible for his gap. He will take a 6-inch step out and towards the defensive tackle. His second step is with his play side foot, not his gap side foot. So we always step with our gap foot first. So in this case, for the center, it would be his right foot. So he'd step with his right foot to get on his angle of departure, his track, so he can get in front of the lineman and attack him at a 45 degree. His second step will be a square up step where he is now on his train tracks, his 45-degree tracks, to cut the defender off and then drive him at a 45-degree angle. Your third step is when you should be making contact. And then you should get your helmet on the near number. You need to get your helmet in front of the guy. That way the defender can't just run straight up field and blow up our puller. You need to get your head in front of him on the near number. And then you get your play side hand on his sternum and then your backside hand on his hip. And you were driving him at a 45 degree. You were trying to drive this guy to the sideline. That is what you're trying to, that's the mentality you need to have, is that you were trying to drive this guy laterally down the line of scrimmage, towards the sideline, and try to drive him into the bleachers. Do not let him drive you into the backfield. You need to flatten him out and drive him flat down the line of scrimmage. So that's how the down block should be used. Let's see if I can find some film of that. I have some examples from older video here. Okay. So if you watch this tackle here, he has a down block, he has a guy in his gap, and he's trying to drive this guy past the center, flatten him out down the line of scrimmage. So as you can see, he takes a step with his play side foot. Second step, he should be getting square. Now, the one thing I wish is that he would get his head in front of this guy, but he has one hand on the hip, one hand on the sternum, and now he is driving that guy. He flattened him out, and now he's driving him down the line of scrimmage as far as he can, and he's trying to drive him to the sideline. Okay, all the way to the backside tackle. So he drove him all the way to where the other tackle was lined up at the beginning of the play. That's exactly what we're trying to do when we do a down block. We're trying to drive the guy laterally down the line of scrimmage, just like that. Okay, because what that does is creates a huge hole where we're trying to run the ball. Okay, we want to try to drive everyone laterally down the line of scrimmage. Okay, let's see if I got one more example here. Okay, so once again, this is it's a weird example. This guy's off the line of scrimmage a little bit, but he has a guy in his gap, so he's going to block him. Same thing here. This guard has a guy in his gap. Okay, so they end up with getting their head. I like to see him a little bit lower down on the number, but one hand is on the sternum, one hand is on the hip, And then we want to drive that guy laterally because as you can see, as I've already drawn, it makes this gigantic hole. Once we get nice lateral displacement on the guy, creates a big hole. Okay. Now, one thing I'd say, I want to see this guy drive him flat down the line of scrimmage. I don't want to see him give up penetration like this. I want to see him drive him flat down the line of scrimmage. Okay, here's an example from the center here. The center takes his 2 steps, gets on his angle of departure. Okay, he gets one hand right there on the hip or on the rib cage. Okay, his head is in front of him, and he's trying to drive that guy laterally down the line of scrimmage. Okay, so that is the down block.